Welcome back, everyone. Oz here, and today I've got some r/am I the asshole for you all. As per usual, I'll be reading the post, giving you my thoughts and opinions, and I hope you do the same down in the comments below. And without further ado, let's jump right into it. Magical Princess. Am I the asshole for blowing up at my sick husband when he asked for help with our toddler? Reddit has deemed them not the asshole. Let's find out why. I plan on sending this post to my husband once the verdict is in, whichever way it goes, so I'll add as much of his perspective as I can. Our toddler was sick through the weekend. I was up with him one night from 12:15 to 2:45, and off and on the next night. I probably got 10 to 12 hours of broken sleep the whole weekend. Yesterday, my husband mentioned he was starting to feel a little sick. Last night, I went to bed early hoping to catch up on rest. All throughout the night, my husband woke me up way more often than my toddler ever does, even on a bad night. Some of the times were not directly his fault, but other times I felt like he was being inconsiderate. 1. He snored loudly in my ear. 2. He asked for another blanket because he had the chills. I told him it was at the foot of the bed, and he asked for help and reminded me that he helps me when I'm sick, and that he'd still do the morning routine with our son. 3. He had a nightmare I had to shake him awake from. This is normal. 4. He whispered at Alexa to ask for the time. 5. He asked for another blanket. I gave him mine. 6. He made a phone call in bed and left a full volume voicemail to his work to let them know he'd need to take a sick day. 7. At 5:30 in the morning, he woke me up to ask if I could do the wake-up routine with our son. I do bedtime, he does wake up. At this point, I blew up. I expressed how mad I was that he woke me up all night long, and now I have to wake up early to do what he said he'd still do, and I don't get to stay home and catch up on sleep. He said I was in the wrong because marriage is in sickness and health. I immediately got up to get ready. He said I didn't have to start getting ready so early. I said yes I do because I start work at 7:30. I barely make it to work on time when I wake up at 6 o'clock, and now I have to unexpectedly skip my shower, get my toddler ready, get his food ready for the day, feed him breakfast, drop him off at daycare, and take myself to work. I said he was a grown man with a cold and he robbed me of the rest I needed and that I'll be sleeping on the couch tonight. At that point, I asked for space and we haven't talked since. I was late for work, which was a big deal at my job. I might be the asshole for blowing up my husband when he asked for support during an unexpected illness. Am I the asshole for being mad at my sick husband? I'm gonna have to agree with Reddit on this one that you're not the asshole, because let's start from the beginning here. You were already starting off extremely exhausted from the events prior, and on top of that, your husband, while sick, did some pretty inconsiderate shit while being sick and sleeping. And I understand that he can't control snoring in your ear, and you understand that as well. But for him to wake you up twice for a blanket that's at his feet and he could easily get to, or leaving voicemails, or talking to Alexa, and just other pretty inconsiderate shit, all while saying that he's going to be taking care of the child when he wakes up, so don't worry too much about that, and then suddenly changing his tone, and now you have to rush to do the morning routine of 2 people and still try to get to work on time, which unfortunately you didn't. You were tired, you were sleep deprived, your husband was being incredibly inconsiderate even with him being sick, and your crash out was justified. I also totally forgot to mention the fact that you were dealing with a sick toddler beforehand and you already had to essentially run yourself ragged. I don't know, but maybe I missed something and her crash out was not valid and she had no reason being to be upset with her husband for everything that had happened. I'd be very interested to hear some other perspectives on this. Per Simon Pale 466. Am I the asshole for telling my sister-in-law to get over herself and stop trying to one-up us? Throwaway account. My 29 male, wife 27 female, and her sister 30 female got pregnant around the same time. The babies are the first of a new generation on their side of the family, so everyone was excited. Sister-in-law was further along, but my wife ended up giving birth on week 32. Plus, she had some complications that had her hospitalized. My nephew was born 2 weeks later at full term. Apparently, sister-in-law was resenting having her thunder stolen, and felt like she and her new baby weren't getting enough attention. She keeps making these comments like she's trying to one-up us. First, she was saying how sorry she was that my wife missed the golden hour because they had to take our son to the NICU. This upset my wife since during her hospitalization, she was often too sick to visit the NICU, and she's already feeling crappy about missing skin to skin on those first few weeks. After we started to bring our son to family gatherings, sister-in-law started comparing the boys, saying how much bigger and more alert her son looks like compared to ours, and how he hit more milestones. Last weekend we had lunch at my in-laws. My wife and I were excited to tell everyone that our son laughed for the first time earlier that day. He's 5.5 months old, 3.5 corrected. Mother-in-law and father-in-law were having a good time watching the video when sister-in-law made another comment about how her son did that a month ago. I don't know why that was the last straw, but I just about had it. I told sister-in-law that she's pathetic for trying to one-up a freaking baby, that her full-term son wasn't special for being more developed than a preemie, that she should just get the fuck over not giving birth to the first grandbaby. Needless to say, this ruined lunch and my wife's family is pissed. I admit I was harsh with my words and tone, and this was the first time I confronted her family like this. Up until now, we'd handle our own relatives, but these comments upset my wife and pissed me off. So am I the asshole for being so harsh and not staying in my lane? I'd also like to add that Reddit did vote this person not the asshole. I'm gonna have to agree. Also, according to their comment history, his wife isn't upset with him, it's just her family. In fact, his wife is actually happy that he stood up not only for her, but their son. So, in my eyes, he's all good to go. Because it is pretty ridiculous and pathetic that her sister is trying to compare the events of birth milestones against a child that was born under regular circumstances and a premature baby. So yeah, I'm gonna stick to not the asshole, maybe perhaps some wiggle room for justified asshole, but that's if you think that. Because I don't. Because for me, I no fault towards the father here. I'm entirely on his side on this one. Because he wasn't just defending his wife, he was defending his son from his sister-in-law, who's just kinda sad, if I'm gonna be honest. And also, it sounds like your wife really needed to hear you backing her up and being in her corner, because it sounds like, from what you described, she does have a lot of maternal guilt for being unable to be there for the child's first few steps and milestones, like skin-to-skin contact and other important portions like that, and she probably severely blames herself and feels a lot of guilt attached to it. So, good on you for standing up for that. It's also a shame that rather than her sister being supportive of your wife who just kind of went through her own personal hell, she's more focused on comparing milestones. Rather than having a supportive sister, she has a competitive one. And it's also a shame the in-laws don't seem to understand or recognize this. My little cutie 13. Am I the asshole for refusing to let my mom borrow my car indefinitely? I, 25 male, bought my first car last year. Nothing fancy, but it's mine. I worked hard for it, and I pay for everything. Insurance, maintenance, gas, etc. My mom, 48 female, doesn't have a car because she doesn't like the responsibility and has always relied on borrowing from my family or using public transport. So, 3 days ago, my mom called, we talk pretty often, and casually mentioned, "I'll need your car for a while." I asked what she meant, and she said she had a new job starting soon. She told me about the job before. And didn't want to deal with the bus schedule. I told her, I can drive you when I'm free, but I can't just give you my car. She acted all surprised, like I was being ridiculous. You don't need it all the time, I'll just use it when you're not. I told her, you know I work full time. I do actually need my car every day. She then said, well, we're family. I let you live in my house for 18 years, and now I need your help. Always brings that up as if she's the only parent to ever do that. I told her, that's not the same thing. I bought this car with my own money. She got mad and said I was being selfish and disrespectful. Obviously, she instantly told everybody, so my aunt called me saying I should help my mom out because she sacrificed so much for me. I stood my ground and said I won't give my car away. If she needs a ride sometimes, I can help, but she needs to figure out a real solution, and now she's barely speaking to me. Yeah, 100% not the asshole here, and let's start from the top and we'll move down. First things first, she's actively chosen not to get her own car for a while because she doesn't want to take the responsibility. She doesn't feel like she can handle the responsibility of having her own car, but when it comes to your car, yeah, that's fine, because it's your responsibility to maintain it. She just gets to drive it. And if she can't trust herself with maintaining a vehicle, then there's no telling what kind of damages could accrue over the time of her using it, whether it's not taking it in for maintenance or just general car maintenance responsibilities. The next point is that she's worked her entire life off of a bus schedule and has been completely content with that because she doesn't want the responsibility of a car. But suddenly, she gets a new job, you suddenly have a new car, and she just believes that she's entitled to have that car for her and her new job. Not having a car hasn't been a problem for 48 years of her life, and suddenly she has a new job and is desperately in need to have your car for an indefinite amount of time? Yeah, that's pretty suspicious. Not to mention, OP still needs his car in his day-to-day life. Like what, is he just supposed to hand over the thing that he purchased with his own money to his mother that he pays insurance on, and just now also spend additional money to take the bus every morning? Especially when OP has offered to drive his mother when he has free time and is available to do so. It's not like he's just flat out saying, no, I can't help you ever. It's, I have my own responsibilities I gotta handle, but I can help you with this when I have the time to. And then there's the fucked up cherry on top of her trying to guilt trip with the, I let you live in my house for 18 years. Congratulations on doing the federal minimum requirement. That is nowhere even close to being the bargaining chip that she thinks it is. It just pretty much tells her son that, hey, I view our entire relationship as transactional. And then of course there's the nice little cherry on top of her going to family members to try and guilt trip and probably telling a sob story about, oh, he does nothing for me and I ask for this one thing after all the sacrifices I've made and he says no. And suddenly now the entire family is turning against, and now you're also dealing with the fact that your mother's ghosting you and acting like a fucking toddler. Great times. Glittering Map 5281. Am I the asshole? I changed my mind about my order at Auntie Anne's, but my husband insisted I still get it, and when I didn't, he argued and stormed off. According to Reddit, everyone sucks here. Let's find out why. My husband and I went to the mall to pick up his suit from the tailor. As we were walking, we passed by Auntie Anne's and decided to grab a quick snack. As we approached, I mentioned that I wouldn't mind having some hot dog pretzel bites. Well, he decided on the cinnamon bites. When we reached the cashier to place our order, they informed us that they're out of hot dog pretzel bites and the next batch would be ready in about 10 minutes. My husband placed his order and asked if I still wanted the hot dog bites. I told him I'd decide after we visit the next store and that he could go ahead with his order. Despite that, he insisted on adding the hot dog bites anyway, arguing that it was just a 10-minute wait. He then told the cashier to include them in the order. I reiterated that I wanted to wait and asked the cashier to remove them. Instead of doing so immediately, she looked to my husband for confirmation. He continued to insist I get them, but I looked him in the eye and firmly said, I do not want them anymore. Then I turned to the cashier and repeated, I asked you to please remove them from the order. At that point, she finally did. After we paid, my husband told me I had embarrassed him, called me childish, and berated me before storming off for 30 minutes, leaving me standing there, all because I didn't want to pay for something I wasn't sure I wanted anymore. Okay, this one is just kind of complicated, and I definitely understand why a lot of people say everyone sucks, because it sounds like the wife, didn't want to get the pretzel hot dogs because it was going to be a wait, but the husband's like, no, we can wait. Trust me, I'm okay with waiting. We can get your pretzel hot dogs. But then she was like, no, I don't want the pretzel hot dogs anymore. It's like, no, but please, I can get these for you. Then she put her foot down, made it awkward for the cashier, and then the husband, feeling upset that his act of generosity was then turned down in such a quote-unquote humiliating way, that he then stormed off for 30 minutes like a child. I think this certainly boils down to a misunderstanding that unfortunately involved the cashier and ended with the husband definitely overreacting by a shit ton. Honestly, the only place the wife is at fault is for partially involving the cashier into it and then also misinterpreting her husband's possible goodwill gesture of, I'm willing to wait 10 minutes for your pretzel bites, into being kind of condescending, and it, kind of devolved from there. I'd say a majority of the blame definitely falls on the husband for overreacting the way that he did, and, he should have just taken her saying, I don't want them anymore as being the final part of that, and, him also involving the cashier. Just a messy situation that involves a lot of communication breakdown, and I don't know. How did this story make you feel? Do you agree with Reddit's opinion that everyone sucks? I'd be very curious to know. Shadows2379. Am I the asshole for not listening to my wife and eating the wrong cookie? Reddit has deemed this person the asshole. I worked a 10-hour shift yesterday and had little to eat but bubblegum and some cheap hot chocolate. I came home to a voice message whereas my wife had picked up a cookie for me from the local bakery, and another specific cookie for our young daughter, which she could have when she came home from school. Overjoyed, partially because I was hungry and partially because my wife and I had been at odds for a bit and I thought perhaps this was an olive branch of sorts, I looked into the cookie box. One of the two cookies inside was definitely the one for my daughter, due to its description, so I ate the other one. It wasn't quite what she had said it would be, but I didn't want to be picky. A few hours later, my wife pours herself a glass of milk after dinner and goes into the cookie box. She mutters something under her breath, pours her milk back into the jug, and flops down on the couch. I asked what was the matter, and she informs me that I never listen, and I ate her cookie. I told her that I had only eaten the other cookie in the box that wasn't our daughter's, and my wife lets me know that my cookie was separate in a bag under the cookie box, and that I should have listened better, and that she wasn't surprised. I asked her what kind of cookie I had eaten, and told her I'd go buy her another one. She refused to tell me and merely repeated that I should have known that wasn't my cookie based on her description. The cookie I ate was white and had some kind of brown icing on it. Apparently, she had bought me some sort of toffee chocolate chip cookie. Am I the asshole for not paying attention and eating the wrong cookie, or is she blowing this out of proportion? Edit, since it's come up a few times, I thought I'd add more information. Yes, I do have a hard time paying attention. I have ADHD and I'm working on it. Yes, not eating all day is my fault. It was 2 days before payday, we had nothing in the house viable for me to take, and I had $1 worth of change in my cup holder, plus a pack of gum. I did what I could. No, she didn't mention that my cookie was separate. She told me my cookie was in our bread bag, which is a bag where we keep our bread and other things we want to keep bugs and mice out of. She described the cookie as a toffee chocolate chip cookie. I looked in the bag, found the box from the bakery, and it had 2 cookies in it. One of them was decorated like the night sky and is what she said she had purchased for our daughter. There was only one other visible cookie. No, I can't prove this unless someone can instruct me how to download voice messages from Messenger and post them here. Okay, so I have some serious mixed feelings on this post. One thing that I will say is it does certainly sound like there's more going on than just the cookies at hand here. My biggest recommendation would be to communicate with your wife to help better understand each other and to help avoid future miscommunications, because that stuff does happen, and sometimes you might overanalyze instructions and get way too caught up in your own head and fuck something up, or maybe just the instructions aren't clear enough and you make assumptions that shouldn't be there. I do that all the time. It's not a malicious thing, and sometimes it just happens. It would be interesting to hear the actual voicemail, but I will say, like, why was the cookie placed under the cookie box? Like, tinfoil hat part of me, which this is deep-seated in some of my own personal problems, makes this sound like she's almost setting him up to fail, in a sense. Like, if you got your husband a cookie, you know he has problems listening to directions. Why would you put the cookie in a separate bag underneath the box when you could have just put it in the box, or even put the bag with the cookie on top of the box to make sure that issue wouldn't have happened? It just feels weird to obfuscate the location of the cookie by hiding it under a box and then being mad when there was a misunderstanding about it. That just seems weird. Like, unless the voicemail specifically said, your cookie is in a bag that is underneath the box, that's an entirely different thing then, but I don't know. And the only reason why I'm like this, and this is definitely a me personal problem here, and I'm possibly projecting, so I'm just putting that out there. When I was in a previous past relationship, my ex would put me in positions where even if I followed instructions to a T, they would still find something that I did wrong to be upset with me about. And no matter how hard I tried to follow exactly what they told me, down to the letter, I always did something wrong no matter what. And there were certainly times where I was left in a position where I felt like I was being set up to fail, because I was being put in a lose-lose scenario where things were purposely set out in a way where it was not possible or difficult for me to accomplish the task at hand. Like, I do understand that posters are oftentimes unreliable narrators and you gotta look between the lines, and that is definitely why I feel like this is definitely more than just about the cookie box, but I also feel like there might be more going on here, and it's definitely making me feel uncomfy how out of the norm I am compared to the rest of the Reddit comments. Okay, I'm actually back after reading more Reddit comments. I feel like I'm taking fucking crazy pills. Okay, so there's this common thread here, and okay, look at this. And please, just look at the downvotes. This person says, please tell us the exact wording of your wife's voicemail. Just rephrasing your understanding of the message, especially in the context of being accused of not listening, makes me think you're the asshole. OP responds, I'm assuming this is a quote from the voicemail, you have 4 chocolate-covered strawberries in the fridge from KEYZ and a toffee chocolate chip cookie from KEYZ in the second bread bag. Evelyn has 3 chocolate-covered strawberries and a Cosmic cookie. She can have the strawberries, the Cosmic cookie for a snack, not both. If she doesn't want the Cosmic cookie, that's fine. Calvin can have it for a snack tomorrow. I just want to point out, he provided the context that was asked for by the users and still got downvoted. Also, there is no mention the wife has her own cookie at all. And keep in mind, his cookie was underneath the box of cookies in the same bread bag mentioned in the voicemail. Alright? Then a commenter below states, a toffee chocolate chip cookie from KEYZ in the second bread bag. So she said it was in a secondary bag and you ate the cookie from a box, and she's in the wrong for being upset that you ate a different cookie than described, found in a separate location that was described. OP responds, "The box was in the bag. She told me both cookies were in the bag, so I opened the bag and found a box with 2 cookies. She hadn't told me she had taken my cookie out of the box and put it underneath the box inside the bag." And then they responded, "And when the cookie that was in the box was not the toffee chocolate chip cookie she said she got you, that didn't ring a single alarm bell?" If I was only told about 2 cookies and opened a box and saw 2 cookies, I'd make the same assumption. Am I going fucking crazy? I feel like I am. Look at the downvotes. Like, to me, this sounds like he was set up to fail, and I'm standing by that. Unless, I am just entirely wrong, please let me know. I understand and grasp they definitely have a history of miscommunication. Do not get me wrong on that. But I feel like he was set up. And keep in mind, these are cookies from a designer bakery. Who fucking knows what kind of crazy shit they're making? Toffee cookie opens the box, only told about 2 cookies? I'd honestly think, that's a weird looking toffee cookie. At no point was he ever told that his cookie was separated from the box. Let's not also ignore the fact that he offered to go and buy her cookie back if she told him what it was, and she said no. And yes, I get that there is very clearly a history of miscommunications, but if the history of miscommunications look like this, what the fuck else is going on? Black Coffee Blonde. Am I the asshole for refusing to wake my wife up in the morning? No assholes here is Reddit's verdict. Let's find out why. My 38 male, wife, 37 female, have 3 young kids including a 6-month-old baby who sleeps in our room. I'm an early bird. I routinely get up at 5:30 a.m. to enjoy a few silent moments of sanity and get some shit done before the kids take over. My wife is a night owl and hates waking up. As a kid growing up, her family nicknamed her the Lion on account of her morning temperament and blonde bedhead. They would draw straws and the loser would have to get her up in the morning. This topic made it into wedding speeches and continues to be a running joke to this day. That said, she comes by this honestly these days. We're chronically sleep deprived because of kids. She's on maternity leave and is up 1 to 2 times in the night nursing while I'm blissfully passed out beside her. So I don't blame her for pushing her wake-up times. I also don't blame her for staying up later, as once the kids go down around 7:30 p.m., then we put the house back together, then we get stuck to the couch recovering from the day, and then she might get an hour to watch TV before we do it all over again. Here's the issue. She always asks that I, 1, wake her up in the morning, and 2, ensure she's awake 10 minutes later. This has frustrated me from the start. I suggested that she use a silent, vibrating phone alarm for her Apple Watch if she's concerned about waking the baby. But apparently, those aren't good enough. For what it's worth, I wear my Garmin smartwatch and a cheap $20 dumb silent vibrating alarm wristband that could wake the dead. There's been a few times where I've agreed to wake her up at a certain time, but forgot and woke her up 15 minutes later. It usually doesn't cause any issues, but today I got her up at 7:20 a.m. instead of the agreed upon 7 a.m., as I lost track of time attending to my son who woke up early. It was a particularly difficult morning with cranky kids, and she snapped about how it was just too late to get up with not enough time to get everyone ready. I reached my breaking point and snapped back that moving forward, I absolutely refuse to wake her up in the morning and that she's a big girl who can be responsible for herself. Since then, she's made a few snide comments about random little things, apparently being too much to ask, and says I'm being unreasonable by refusing to get her up and make sure she's actually awake after she inevitably falls back asleep. I told her if it's not that much to ask, then it should be simple enough for her to do it herself. So, am I the asshole? I understand infrequent critical moments like please make sure I'm awake so I don't miss my flight, but making me responsible for her daily wake-up times is absolutely unreasonable at best, even if kids and sleep deprivation are in the mix. Edit. Sincerely did not expect this much traction. I'm glad I posted to help gain the perspective. Thanks everyone for their constructive and not so constructive comments. Parents will understand. This one slice, albeit a large one, out of the overall context of parenting. When baby was taking a bottle, I was up several times nightly as well. I'm also primarily on overnight soothe duty when the little dude wakes up before a feeding, as I'm able to get him back to sleep when he's furious, whereas non-nursing soothing fails for my wife because he goes straight for the boob. My wife hates pumping and we've agreed upon the split of night feeding as I take up the slack in other areas. Of our relationship issues, 0 involve kid raising. We regularly convey our appreciation for each other and being on the same page parenting-wise, as much of our social and family circle is dealing with the stereotypical uninvolved parent stuff. I also work from home and routinely rearrange my workday to parent. One kid is part-time daycare, part-time home, so I've dipped out of meetings to help get him dressed to go outside, feed the kid lunch when she's putting the baby down, watch the furious toddler who won't get in the car when my wife goes to pick up our oldest from school, etc. So the, "Oh wow, dad gets to work all day and doesn't lift a finger with the kids and now he won't even wake her up, typical man," responses are objectively wrong. Much of the derision in the "you lazy fuck blissfully sleeping, just get her a goddamn coffee, she carried your children" is a tiny bit misguided and just a little heavy on judgment without knowing the full context of parenting duties. Welcome to Reddit. With that said, the more nuanced responses of "nobody's exactly wrong here, but come on dude, parenting is hard, just wake her up and bring her a coffee, that's the nicest part of my day," have resonated. It is exceedingly obvious in the responses who has been a gracious parent and partner and who has weathered the relationship struggles of maintaining a relationship while raising young kids, and who has not, saying this as a not fully gracious partner. Regardless of sentiment expressed, thank you all for responding. I'm on my way up with a coffee right now, albeit 5 minutes late as I was responding to this. Fuck. Sounds like he kinda got the answer he needed and my response really wouldn't add much beyond the fact of just it sounds like these are just two parents just dealing with any kind of woes that might end up come up, but they have a healthy, grounded basis for their life, and honestly, communication's key. I mean, yeah, you're gonna have your stumbles and hiccups and the occasional trip and fall, but sounds like you got a good head on your shoulders, and honestly, you both had your reasons to be upset and frustrated with each other, and as long as you can communicate past that, there's not really a problem here. I agree that no one here is the asshole. You just gotta be there for each other. Hey, welcome to the outro. Don't forget this whole thing is basically brought to you by GamerSupps. If you like caffeine, then I can't recommend GamerSupps enough. Use code Oz at checkout to support the channel. And I do actually use this product. It's replaced all other sources of caffeine for me because I feel good. It doesn't have any of that extra stuff that a pre-workout blend might have. It's with a couple of the extra things to make it so you don't crash as hard. It's good. I like it. Personally, if you really want a good flavor, try the Soda Pressing Pear or even the Dragon Fruit Punch. Those two are my personal favorites right now.